today we are doing Septemberk 6 Profile Part 2. So Profile Part 2, as you might have suspected from 3/4 Part 1 and 2, we have Day 2 and Day 4, and today's Day 6, so we're going to do this same face in profile. Or at least an attempt at that. Because as you know, I am not a great artist. I'm kind of the antithesis of that, but we muddle on, This pencil is getting increasingly blunt. Getting better at circles though, I'll give you that much. So I guess something is helping. Yeah, the pencil's getting increasingly blunt because more and more I'm not sharpening it before I do these. So there's our halfway line for the head, there's the face. That becomes the brow line, nose here. Chin, jaw, eyes. I'm trying to really loosen this up. I'm trying to give myself the right proportions because I think that... Oh, today's ambience, by the way, you can probably hear is rain sounds. I might turn that down a little bit, actually. It's a little bit loud. Yeah, I've basically been reading up, and I think that the important thing to get in these pictures is actually the proportions. If I can get the proportions of the various different elements correct, that's actually 9/10 of figuring this thing out. So long as I get the right proportional sizes on the various different parts of the face, the rest of it is just about figuring out the best way to represent those parts with, you know, the correct edges and such. That is to say, you know, with the nose, what really sort of clicked me in for the nose, you can see at the top of the paper there, tilt this up a bit so it's a bit easier to see, what really sort of clued me in with the whole thing about noses in profile is the fact that if you have the side of the face here, the nostril will never really go back much further than that part of the nose. So then the nostril will reach into the nose and it will touch against kind of the same surface of the face. And then if you have this bulbous part of the nose here, that comes around behind, and then through either making that larger you can have a big nose, or you can make it sort of angular and do a small nose, and that's kind of where all this comes from. It's about the size of the nostril and the size of the shape of the bridge can change things as well. But ultimately, you know, the nose has the same lines, just in different proportions. So if you can figure out what lines you're meant to be drawing for the most part, you don't have to worry too much. Now the nose, actually, going back to the reference, I feel like the nose on this is too long. Like the bridge of the nose feels too long, which makes me think I've maybe done the bridge of the nose too long here as well. So I'm going to go for the higher nose, and therefore give myself more room for the mouth to come in sort of here. If we... I'm working on a better solution, by the way, for the anchor on here, because I know that the camera moves a lot while I draw. So, don't worry, it's all in hand, it's all in hand. And then on this face, of course, we still have the smile here. It should come into more of a tight curve, actually. Now the eyes, I felt really good about the eyes yesterday. They sort of hang back here on the other profile image. They didn't actually touch the front of the face. The eyeball kind of went round like so. The brow line came in here. And I don't want to do a particularly prominent brow on this one. I'm going to go for a more curved brow shape, and maybe a more curved nose shape as well. I feel like yesterday's nose was a bit bulbous, and I want to try and sort of clean the nose up a little bit here. So the nostril part to there, and the actual I've been having more problems with this hand, by the way. I know I mentioned on the previous videos that I was having trouble with my my grip strength in this hand, and I'm not sure if it's strictly grip strength or whether it's something else as well. But the you know, I feel like that's too flared, that nostril. I feel like that needs to be way lower. Like that could be easily just a sort of a slight curvature there. There we go. We don't want it too flared. That's better. Yeah. So then, we have the brow line kind of here. Do we want to arch that brow? I feel like I want to arch it upwards a bit. If the sort of the brow of the face comes around this way, so the brow will go to there. I don't think it's a standard thing that artists do, is turn the paper so that they can use the natural curve of their wrist like that. I feel like I should be able to draw that line without turning the entire table. Because if one day I want to develop onto working on a tablet, like an art tablet, then I definitely want to be able to do lines without rotating the entire graphics tablet and having to then coordinate my brain with where on the table the graphics tablet is going and what parts of it I'm using. But that's probably a complication for another time. So here's the thing, when I do the inking on the lips, I know that I want the lip to have a bit more form to it, but I'm not sure that I want it necessarily to have a full outline. I'm not entirely sure how to go about doing that, whether I can get away with just doing a small amount of it and have the rest kind of fade off like that. And the same on the lower one. Just kind of have a hint of that there. I've kind of, in many ways, I've scuppered myself by doing deciding that what I wanted to do was go for a more bold line style in the work that I do. Because if I go for a more bold line style, I'm kind of restricting myself to 2 weights of line. That is none or all. Whereas if I wasn't going for such a stark contrast, I wouldn't have that problem. So we're looking at that side of the face, so we know that the parting is actually completely outside of our vision here, because the parting is going behind an ear which will disappear there. We don't need to worry about the shape of the ear. But the hair for this part will be coming down from here. So we kind of have the flow of the hair, if you imagine it here, will be coming down here and also there. So these parts will be coming in here. Okay, so it looks like the video is not happening for the rest of this draw, which is annoying, but I guess you work with what you've got. My camera card is full and I can't figure out how to empty it without going all the way to a computer to delete the files off. And so rather than do that, I'm going to continue commentary. I'm going to keep recording commentary, but you're going to have to see it blind, and I will show you a photo of it when it's done. So just to make the video more interesting, I'm going to take a picture of it now, pre-inking. I think I've put the eyelashes on the wrong way around. I think they should have gone backwards instead of forwards, so this is going to look very wonky indeed when I'm finished. You know what, I'm going to go for the hair first on this one, since the hair seems like the low-hanging fruit on this picture. given that the outer edge of the hair is pretty much smooth the entire way across. It feels like the whole thing is just going to work outwards in the same direction. And if you could hear that big long line I just drew, that was the entirety of the hair. Then we'll have the neckline here. I'm gonna go for the profile first, because I feel like if you can ink the whole profile, you can then sort of work towards the whole rest of the... Oh! See, again, it's when I'm pushing the pen towards the direction that it's pointed. So if I draw the pen across the paper, like pulling it, it seems to work a lot better than if... I'm going to see if I can fix the eyelash. This may come out looking very weird, but it's going to look a bit eyelinery, but I think it will help. Yeah, I think that helps. Not entirely sure, to be honest. I think I'm not going to know what's going on with this picture until I finish drawing it, which is irritating, but very displeased with this eye. Very displeased. I think this may actually be the worst eye that I've drawn the entire time I've been doing this. And possibly the best mouth so far? Nope, probably the worst mouth as well. Oh my, this is going to be the worst image I've drawn in this entire process so far. I have no idea what's gone wrong with this. This is terrible. I think not having the camera on me has made me sloppy. I think it's made me very very complacent about what I'm actually doing here. It's made me like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what I draw because no one can see it. Of course you're going to see the final picture. That much is known. Try and draw the hair with more methodical strokes this time. Not that you can tell that I'm doing that, but hopefully it will come out in the final image that these strokes are a little bit more methodical, not just the sort of scrappy things I've been doing thus far. Trying to be more precise as to where I'm placing the pen before I draw it down. Still using the technique that I talked about yesterday, where I basically am always moving the pen. So as I'm doing one stroke, I'm already deciding where the next stroke's going to be. I'm just taking a little longer to actually go about the process of doing said next stroke. So it's not always hitting the mark, but it seems to be doing better, I'd say. It's doing a lot better than it was doing. Maybe if I slow it down even more. Not slowing down the stroke itself, just the placement of the stroke. So that when I put it down on the paper, I'm not outside of the line that I'm trying to draw. Like the contour line, I should say. Here it's not particularly important where my line begins because I'm inside the mass of it, so there's no actual contour to fit to here, but I do have to stay pretty stable in terms of the direction of these lines. If they become too curved, it's going to show. If they become too straight, it's going to show. Not so much in the lines themselves, but kind of in the gaps between the lines, if I can get a little bit cloud atlas on you for a second. Right, so here's my theory with the hair, is that there should be like an area of it that's completely dark in between any shiny spots. That way I can sort of pick a point halfway down to do lines up towards a shiny spot to give a nice reflection there. And then, you know, this looks less like hair and more like a headscarf, which, I mean, you know, if I wasn't trying to replicate an existing image, I'd probably lean into that. I think what it needs is a few stray bits of hair just to show that it's not. I'm very annoyed that my card filled up. I need to clear that out, because it's worth pointing out, like, it's a 32GB card, and even though I'm only recording at 30 frames a second, because I'm doing it at 1080p when I do these, that's coming out at about 20 minutes would take about 4 gigs, if not more. So what's happening is that I'm running out of space on the card just because I'm too thick-headed to delete the old footage. I really need to figure out a way to define hair with, it's going to sound ridiculous, but I need to figure out a way to define hair with less lines. So, like, if I was going to colour it solid, how would I define that it was hair without drawing every single goddamn strand of hair on the head? Okay. I don't think there's anything I can do to improve that now. I think that maybe I'm going to go for a full eye outline on this. Okay, now that was a mistake. Oh, that looks real bad now. That looks really, really, really bad. That last line was a mistake. And you'll probably look at the image and you know what line it was. It was the outer line on the eye, the surface of the eye. I drew too far forward and it looks really bizarre. The shape of it just does not work. But I think I'm going to call that a day. I will make up for the lack of process on this video by doing something more special for the sort of the next. Oh, tomorrow I've got Magic Club things to do, so I'm going to do it during the day as well. So tomorrow we're going to do. I've decided this, and this is probably a mistake, but I'm going to say it now. And once I've said it, you know I've got to do it because it's a promise. I think. Whereas I was going to pick one image and improve it, and that was going to be like the fave and improve thing. I think that rather than doing a fave and improve, I am going to do a 3 Wolves style image of face number 2, the day from day 2, 4, and 6. I'm going to try and do a 3 Wolves style image with those 3 views improved. So I'm going to now spend some time away from this, looking at a few studies of what the hell the human face actually looks like. You know what, actually there was one extra ink line that I want to add on this. I know it's a huge mistake doing an extra ink line. That may have vaguely improved it, but who's to know? Right, yeah, so tomorrow is not going to be a single face image, it will be 3 face images. I'm going to arrange them in the style of the famous 3 Wolves t-shirt. And hopefully it will not be trash.